treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. For a chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
the People's Channel?
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good evening to you and welcome to Farage. With me tonight's your host, Martin Daubney. Coming up on tonight's show.
The budget was a moment of personal pride for me.
Yes, Sir Keir Starmer faces a cabinet rebellion over allegations that he and the Chancellor misled them over a fiscal black hole. He's defended his Chancellor today and said that the budget was a moment of personal pride. And meanwhile,
Economic growth is beating the forecasts, and that is good for growth. And that's why our choices were fair, they were necessary, and they were fundamentally good for growth.
Sir Keir Starmer has also insisted that this budget will help secure long-term growth for the country. But I'll be joined by an entrepreneur who is warning it will devastate the economy. And
David Lammy is ripping up this ancient part of our constitution.
This David Lammy is set to scrap jury trials except for the most extreme crimes. New reports suggested this will threaten freedom of speech. And finally,
we've started strongly with record deportations and removals, up to 50,000 now.
Is the Home Office guilty of spreading misinformation about deportations? We'll be crunching the numbers as the government claims 50,000 illegal immigrants have been removed since they took office. But what's the truth? All of that's to come. But first, here's your latest news headlines with Sophia Hill.
Martin, thank you. Very good evening. It's just gone 7 o'clock. These are your top stories. Office for Budget Responsibility Chairman Richard Hughes has resigned. In a letter sent to Rachel Reeves and the chair of the Treasurer Select Committee, Hughes says that he wants to ensure that the OBR gets the chance to quickly move on from this regrettable incident. It comes after the OBR this afternoon published a report urging an immediate change to its leadership after it mistakenly released an analysis of the budget early. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has accused the Chancellor of using Mr Hughes as a human shield and has called on Rachel Reeves to resign.
The fact is, this has now turned into a political crisis for the Prime Minister and his Chancellor. This is a classic example of do as I say, not do as I do.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is pressing ahead with a major welfare reform drive, arguing that the current system is trapping young people outside the workforce and holding back economic growth. He says that the budget was a moment of personal pride after scrapping the 2-child benefit cap, a move expected to lift around 450,000 children out of poverty. But the political pressure is far from over. Labour is still fending off claims that it misled its voters about the scale of financial challenge after Rachel Reeves confirmed a £26 billion rise in taxes. Resident doctors in England will go on strike from the 17th of December to the 22nd. Sharing the news on social media this afternoon, the British Medical Association said that they gave the government a window to deliver sufficient progress on a deal, but that didn't happen. Experts expect pressure on services to be intense amid surging flu cases and staff sickness, but medics say that they've been left with no choice but to return to the picket lines. Meanwhile, Christmas is on its way to Downing Street as they turned on their Christmas lights this afternoon. The light switch on featured a 19-foot Norway spruce from the Caddaby Tree Trust in Leicestershire. A community hero, Sam, was given the honour of pressing the button, while the Prime Minister hosted a Christmas market-style showcase celebrating small firms and community champions. Small businesses are set for a bumper this festive season, with spending up 19% on last year, which could provide an extra £5 billion boost. And if social media is making your blood boil, you might be a victim of rage bait. That's Oxford's word of the year. The phrase describes posts designed purely to provoke outrage and drive clicks. Use of rage bait has tripled in the past year, reflecting what linguists say is a shift from curiosity-driven clickbait to algorithms amplifying anger. It beat aura farming and biohack to the top title, while Cambridge chose parasocial and Collins went for vibe coding, all capturing the strains of life lived online. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in an hour, but now it's back to Martin.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Thank you, Sophia. Welcome back to Farage. With me tonight, your host, Martin Daubry. Now, here was the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, earlier on today, making a robust defence of his Chancellor's budget.
I'm proud we scrapped the two-child limit. I'm proud we're lifting over 500,000 children out of poverty. Proud we raised the national minimum wage again. That is what a Labour government is for, making life better for working families, unlocking their potential and giving our children a fair chance to get on. And that...
Well, the Prime Minister also went on to deny the allegation that he and his Chancellor misled the public regarding a mythical black hole in the public finances. And here was the Treasury Minister, James Murray, making the precise same point earlier.
Took the step of delivering a speech before the budget precisely so that she could be upfront about the circumstances she was facing and the decisions that she would need to take. The Chancellor has been honest and consistent with the public in everything she has said.
Well, but since then, the Treasury watchdog issued its own review into the fact that it accidentally published the budget and its analysis of it early. And now the chairman, Richard Hughes, he's dramatically resigned. Well, it seems just about everything that could go wrong with this budget has indeed gone wrong, and it's not over yet. But perhaps what is most interesting is the fact that the Centre for Social Justice has published new research out today which shows a family with 3 children on full benefits can receive £18,000 more than a working household on living wage. Now, that means that working families would need to earn an astonishing £71,000 a year to match the income of some jobless households on benefits. And that surely cannot be right. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by the former Conservative Party leader, Sir Ian Duncan Smith, as well as GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Thank you to you both. Sir Ian, let's start with you. If I may, let's start with Richard Hughes, the OBR chief, quitting. Kemi Badenoch has said that Richard Hughes is the fall guy, someone who's been thrown under the bus, and that the problem is actually the Chancellor. So I'll ask you, if I could, Sir Ian, should Rachel Reeves resign?
Well, I still agree with Kemi. I think that the House was misled by the whole run-in to the budget. We now also know that cabinet ministers appear to have been misled about this so-called black hole of 20 billion. We know that the OBR told them on a number of occasions that there was no such thing as a black hole of 20 billion. They said you had a surplus, which was small, but it was there, it moved up to about 4.5 billion. But she kept on going on about this black hole, this surplus, and it was briefed into all the papers. They all reported it. That's why all the journalists are saying it's true, they were briefed. So the government goes on, and then the OBR Of course, that release was unforgivable, but we need to get to the bottom of that. But the real point is that the head of the OBR was so fed up with having the OBR's reports simply denied by the government that he came out and published the advice. And that's why they want him to go, and why he's gone, I think, in reality, because he made it clear that all the way through the OBR forecasts were clear that she did not have a black hole necessitating some massive tax rise. Her decisions were hers alone to raise taxes, nothing to do with an existing black hole from any other government or anything else. And I think that is the deceit that has taken place throughout all of this by her and her team. And now it appears, as I said earlier on, even the cabinet was deceived about the black hole. So many of them running departments that needed some investment were told basically back off because we've got a black hole, we have to fill it. Not true.
So, Ian, GB News viewers are resolute today. They're saying they don't care about what was leaked, when it was leaked and to whom. They care about the contents of the budget. And they care about its manifest unfairness in as far as the so-called working people, the Labour Party professors to support, are being drained dry of money to pay for this burgeoning benefits bill. And your CSJ report today shines some astonishing data. Tell us more about that.
Well, what the CSJ has pointed out is that overall, at the end of this Parliament, the way things are going, the benefit bill will be over 91 billion higher. 91 billion pounds higher. The government chose to do no welfare reform on it. We put forward a report that said you could get the bill down by at least 30 to 40 billion. All that was up. And in this year, the report is show that the result of not controlling welfare has meant that, therefore, working families, working hard, who have made decisions about the numbers of children they have, will be earning less than an equivalent family, 3 children, who are on benefits. In fact, to such a degree that they'd have to be earning £71,000 a year to take home about 28. So the reality that we've got here is that the government has skewed everything against working-age people. And what is happening now, there is a disincentive built into the system to go to work. So it's actually turning out not worth your while to work, to make all those choices, to try and rent your property or to buy a property. You're going to be worse off than you were before. That is a terribly damaging position to be in. When I left the Department of Work and Pensions, and I was running it before, we'd taken 35 billion out of the cost of the welfare budget. We had the lowest number of workless households since records began, and over 1,600 people have been out of work every day were going back into work. That was a success story. The problem is right now, all that has gone under the bus, and we're now left with a government that can't take the tough decisions to actually reform and change and cut back on the welfare spending.
Nigel Nelson, isn't that the point? We have a government that's disincentivised work. It now pays to sit on your backside, doesn't pay to work. The figures are stark. You'd be better off on benefits, and that is no way to run a country.
Bear in mind that 7 in 10 of the families who will benefit from this change are actually in work. So the idea is you're lifting people above the poverty line, which is 60% of median wages. So that must be helpful. And I think the CSJ has made some very good points about there are other reasons for this: family breakdown, people being out of a job. Those are things that contribute to the problems children have. But the bottom line comes down to it wasn't these kids' fault that they live in poverty. And so it seems right to actually lift them out of poverty. 500,000 is an awful lot, gives them a much better life chance, better health outcomes, better educational outcomes.
But the OBR has made it very clear ending the 2-child limit will do next to nothing for child poverty in real terms. These invented figures won't come about. It's not because of that people find themselves below the poverty line. It's because those that go into work aren't earning enough. And secondly, those who have had extra children quite often take the choice, therefore, not to go into work. And the whole point about this was to get people to make the same choices in work and out of work that others have to. Families in work make choices about how many children they have, how they manage their budgets. The reality that was introduced for that was to say, well, if everybody's making the same choices, the limits to getting back into work are reduced. People will be able to make that choice to step into work. So it's quite clear that this is a bit of a payment back to the backbenchers. And remember, when they came in, Starmer said no, he wasn't going to change that. He wasn't going to get rid of the 2-child limit. So did the Chancellor. After the rebellion that stopped them getting the £5 billion reduction on welfare, this is when they went and to play back to the backbenchers. It's not going to work. They're going to end up paying substantial amounts of money more.
But the reason that the Prime Minister and Rachel Reeves said that they weren't going to do it is because they didn't think it was affordable. This budget has made it affordable, and the money should come in from gambling taxes and also from clamping down on tax avoidance. If all that works, they've found the money to be able to actually do something which must be right. It must be right that children don't have to live in poverty, especially so many of them, if you've got 500,000 of them living that way.
But it's an invented target. In other words, this will not, and almost every economist says it will hardly make any real difference to what they call as child poverty. Child poverty is about getting people back to work, about making sure work pays, and ensuring that those ultimately who are unable to are supported. It's got nothing to do with this choice. Is about limiting your life so that you won't be able to make those choices about going back into work. So I think it's a tactical, strategic and a monetary mistake. And by the way, when they say they found the money by taxing gambling, that money from taxing gambling spent on this will not last the number and costs it will make down the line. I'm afraid it will be temporarily affordable. It will soon become unaffordable. 91 billion extra pounds on welfare by the end of this Parliament. That is staggering.
Sensational start to show. Thank you very much to Ian Duncan-Smith and, of course, Nigel Nelson here for the duration of the evening. Thank you both for your company and your expertise. Now, coming up in just a moment's time.
Economic growth is beating the forecasts, and that is good for growth. And that's why our choices were fair, they were necessary, and they were fundamentally good for growth.
Well, the Labour Party and Keir Starmer have insisted that this budget will help secure long-term growth for the country. But I'll be joined by an entrepreneur next who's warning it will devastate the economy and...
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Farage with me, Martin Daubry. Now, continuing on a coverage of the budget, it is important to remember that despite the £26 billion in tax hikes, the government still insists that this was a budget for growth.
The most important things that we can do for growth, the most important things that we can do for business, is first, to drive inflation down, and second, to retain market confidence that allows for real economic stability so that businesses can plan with certainty. That is what the country needs most right now. It is what the budget secured. And that's why our choices were fair, they were necessary, and they were fundamentally good for growth.
Fair, necessary and good for growth. However, there is no denying that the Treasury watchdog has downgraded growth forecasts later in this Parliament and that countless small and medium-sized businesses are feeling as squeezed as ever before. I'm joined now by the economist and the former economic advisor to Margaret Thatcher, Patrick Minford. Patrick, it's a pleasure to have your esteemed company. Don't worry, nothing to see here. This is a budget for growth. What say you?
Well, of course, it's complete nonsense. They've destroyed growth with their programme, this government, starting with the first budget where they raised taxes on entrepreneurs and the so-called rich, and then they just went on and did more of the same in this budget. So it is the opposite of a budget for growth, and at the same time they're bringing in regulation to gum up the labour market, which of course was one of the things that in the Thatcher period was freed up by the union laws and all the other flexibility built into the labour market, which gave us many more jobs, and that's being undermined now by this new regulation of the labour market bill as well. So it's a complete disaster all round, really, unfortunately.
Patrick Minford, I always love to ask people who are involved with Margaret Thatcher what Margaret Thatcher would make of things today. What would Margaret Thatcher make of the fact that our benefits bill by the end of this decade will increase by £91 billion to an astonishing 406 billion quid?
Well, she would be aghast, of course, because I mean she introduced benefits for people in work, but the whole point of it was that they should be working in order to qualify for the benefits, and that they shouldn't be better off out of work. And of course, this is what we now have, a situation where people are massively better off out of work with very dubious, disabilities. This is the trouble. The whole checking on the disability aspect has gone out of the window, so that now there's no control over people claiming for benefits and not working at the same time. So this was a contradiction of the principles that were set out in the Thatcher period.
OK, thank you very much. It's short but sweet, but thanks for your time tonight. That's the economist and former economic advisor to Margaret Thatcher, Patrick Minford. Thanks for your time. But I'm joined in the studio now by the entrepreneur and the asset liquidation specialist, Wolfgang Douglas, as well as GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Wolfgang Douglas, thank you for joining us in the studio. Asset liquidation. So you're in the business of helping people to liquidise and realise their assets because they're either going under or they want to clear off out of the country. I'm assuming business must be booming for you.
Well, what I'm actually experiencing is a tsunami of people. As I step out my door in Mayfair, people are approaching me in the street, and this budget has just fueled it beyond measure.
What kind of people are coming to you? We read all the time about a number of millionaires wanting to get out of the country, fleeing to places with low tax regimes, less punitive, such as the Dubais, the Milans. Is that what you're seeing too?
what I'm seeing is people are worried. The confidence has been totally knocked, and we've got a Labour Party that has no place in business. They don't know how business operates clearly in this particular budget, showing you exactly that. People are scared, and when they're being attacked all the time, you drive them to flee. And people, as I say, in my world, they're being overwhelmed by people looking to leave this country and leave this economy. The HMRC are being weaponised to come after people and try and get as much as they possibly can until there's nothing left. And that scares me when there's nothing left.
What kind of taxes in particular are they concerned about? Is it future property taxes? Is it exit taxes? Is it income tax? Or is it just the whole picture when you put it together? It just makes them think, what's the point?
What I would say is exactly as you said, it is the whole picture. It's knocking confidence. You've got obviously mansion tax, which is causing property prices to go down, and it will cause property prices to go down. You're seeing taxes across the board hurt the cost of living already to the point of there is nothing left. And when there is nothing left, people leave. And they might not leave this afternoon because they've got bills to pay. When their bus comes in, they will be jumping on it. And we're watching this happen to our talented, to our entrepreneurs, and we're watching it happen to our wealthy. What people, and I stress this over and over again, if you get rid of all the employers, who employs the employees?
And I wonder if this government's often accused of having a love-hate relationship with the wealthy, seems to hate them, but it loves their taxation, it loves their revenue. But if you squeeze the pips till there's nothing left, who pays the bills?
And people are coming up to me, and that's what I would say they are. They're in fear at the moment. They're walking up to me, and I mean literally walking up to me at this point. I am inundated. It's a tsunami of people trying to get out of our economy. But if we don't get a whole new government in place that's going to actually care about business, we're not going to have a business when it's finished.
Nigel Nelson, when the Prime Minister talks about a budget for growth, it seems, according to Wolfgang, the only thing is growing is the queue to get out of Blighty.
Well, it may well be that they're all turning up at Wolfgang's doorstep at the moment, but at the moment we haven't got any figures to actually back this up. That when we will get figures, but the final figures will come in when we see what the non-DOMs...
figures, 16,500 millionaires, I believe.
No, none of these figures have been absolutely proved. So we'll know when the 24-25 tax returns go in, and that'll be in January. But at the moment, what it looks like is that when the non-DOM tax came in, which hit the rich, some did indeed leave, but 60,000 stayed. And the idea that people will leave the country because of a mansion tax, they may not move house, and I think that Wolfgang's right. At the upper end of the scale, the property market will drop in value. But these people probably won't leave. And so when it comes to it, more people end up staying than leaving. Every tax has a negative impact, and these particular taxes will make some people go, but not enough to go, not to justify the tax.
But wealth taxes haven't worked anywhere ever on the planet. They tried them in France, and it ended up costing
France
them
still has
a
them.
net fiscal drag.
They've changed their wealth tax, but France still has one. So does Spain.
France is broke.
Well,
Spain's almost broke. That's the point. These taxes don't pay for a country that's failing already, and it won't work in Britain either.
But you've got to decide where your money's coming from. The money's got to come from somewhere, so if not there, where? And the answer then is the people who can afford it the most should pay the most. That should be a basic principle. So that's the reason behind the mansion tax, for instance.
But Wolfgang, people aren't passive agents who simply sit around waiting to be financially clean dry, are they?
I'm not a politician. I am only a humble businessman. But I watch, what I would call world-class businessmen running out of this country, like someone like Charlie Mullins, as an example, Alfie Best. They're being forced out. I mean, these are the talent. These are the drivers of our economy. And if I take an engine out of a car, how fast am I really expecting that car to drive?
And isn't that the point, Nigel Nelson? You end up with an old banger.
Well, it depends on just how many people go. I mean, Rachel Reeves, we only have the non-dom tax to actually judge it by, because that is at least something that's over a year old. But, I mean, Rachel Reeves is on course now to get the £10 billion that she wanted from the non-dom tax, which shows that not enough of them left the country to bring that tax take down.
But if you're putting your benefits bill up by 91 billion quid in 5 years, it's not only the richest that are being taxed, you're turning people like nurses, teachers, coppers into the highest earners through fiscal drag. Everybody's being hammered left, right and centre.
But again, every tax, whatever you do, has a negative impact. If she'd raised income tax, which was one of the plans...
Cut benefits.
Spend less. What would have happened was that spending would have gone down. That would have pushed inflation down, but that wouldn't have helped growth. When it comes to the welfare reform, what you've got to do is do proper reviews to find out where the money is going and where it can be claimed back.
You can't artificially boost the economy by taking money off people and giving it to those who are jobless.
No, but what you're doing, but what you're doing is you're trying to sort out the welfare bill. But the best way of doing that is with proper reviews. Alan Milburn is doing one for young people, and we've got the Stephen Timms review looking at disability benefits.
Okay, we have to move on. I'm afraid we're running out of time. Wolfgang and Douglas, thank you for your company. A pleasure. Nigel Nelson, superb as ever. Business at least is beaming for you. Wolfgang, thank you very much indeed. Now, coming up next, as David Lammy is set to scrap jury trials except for the most extreme crimes, a new report suggests that this will threaten freedom of speech. That's next.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. If you're off to the Mediterranean in the next few days, there will be a lot of dry weather to be enjoyed, but there will also be some heavy showers in places. And across Iberia and Madeira, we have got this cold front pushing through on Tuesday, so some gusty winds and heavy rain for a time. Thunderstorms following to Portugal as well. Otherwise, across the central Med, there will be some scattered heavy showers and thunderstorms, but mostly dry across Greece and Turkey, some warm spells of sunshine here, and quite a changeable outlook for the rest of the week, but temperatures around average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Good evening to you. We've had a Met Office amber rain warning in place through the day across parts of South Wales and other rain yellow warnings across parts of Western Britain. It has been a very soggy start to December, but the rain is now starting to ease in the west. These weather fronts are moving through, but still a band of pretty intense rain working from west to east over the next few hours before that finally starts to head out into the North Sea. Further outbreaks of rain to come and go across parts of Scotland, but many areas becoming much drier overnight with some clearer skies. That will allow the temperatures to dip to 5 or 6 degrees in towns and cities, a little lower in the countryside. It does mean a bright start to Tuesday. In fact, overall, a much brighter day tomorrow. Certainly for the Midlands and eastern England, we'll see some sunshine. Maybe a few breaks in the cloud coming through to parts of Scotland. Also, some wet weather across the Northern Isles initially, and showers will come into western Scotland all day. Elsewhere, we'll be looking at showers developing also. A few, maybe for the west of Northern Ireland, certainly around the coasts of Western England and Wales, and along the south coast, there'll be some showers to start off with. And as we go through the day, those showers will tend to creep inland as well. So although not as wet as today in South Wales and southwest England, obviously any rain falling here onto the saturated ground is likely to cause further problems. But the rain, at least a bit more hit and miss in the form of showers, and certainly much in the Midlands, eastern England, good part of eastern Scotland, through the central belt, dry and bright for the most part. A little cooler than today, but we'll have a bit more sunshine, and the winds will be lighter as well. Wednesday is also a case of sunshine and showers, and again, most of the showers will be focused in western areas, particularly western Scotland. It's a good chance that eastern England will stay dry and bright. And again, nothing like as heavy the rain across parts of Wales and southwest England as today. Temperatures, again, mostly 7 to 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, about average for this time of year.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage. With me tonight, your host, Martin Dorby. Now, this week, the Justice Secretary and the Deputy Prime Minister, of course, David Lammy, is expected to unveil his new judicial reforms, amongst which include the controversial decision to restrict jury trials for defendants facing offences likely to result in prison sentences of under 5 years. Well, the Free Speech Union has issued new analysis which suggested that defendants in free speech cases were twice as likely to be cleared in jury trials than by magistrates, warning that fewer juries mean less free speech and ultimately less free people. I'm joined now by the External Affairs Officer at the Free Speech Union, Connie Shaw, as well as GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Connie, welcome to Westminster. Always a pleasure to have your company. Who'd have thought it? Getting rid of juries has yet more profound knock-on effects. This time, if you speak your mind, you're more likely to be freed by a jury than a judge.
Yes, Martin, we are bracing for David Lammy, our Justice Secretary, or our Injustice Secretary, to he's set to announce possibly the biggest assault on our liberties in 800 years, the removal of the majority of jury trials, of course, of which a lot of speech offences are tried against. And the report that the Free Speech Union has released today shows the figures that if you are tried by a jury in the Crown Court, where most jury trials happen, you are twice as likely to be acquitted, i.e. found not guilty, than if you were to be tried in the Magistrates' Court by a judge. So scrapping jury trials, which David Lammy has announced he is going to propose, will have a horrific effect on free speech. And it's such a perverse way to David Lammy is justifying it by saying it's a way to speed up justice, but this is the most perverse way of doing it. Speeding something up doesn't mean it's going to result in a just outcome.
Why is it, in layman's terms, Connie Shaw, that a jury of your peers is more likely to find in favour of free speech than a judge?
Well, we've seen the evidence that the majority of people who do end up in front of a jury for speech offences are acquitted. Around over 70% of people in recent years are acquitted by a jury. I think that the evidence shows that most normal people, which is exactly what a jury is, understand that we shouldn't be throwing people away for tweets, for example, or things that they say on Facebook. I think that the majority of the public do not agree with the way that our justice system is operating and the way that the police are policing our tweets rather than our streets. I think it's a clear example of how the public are not happy with the way that our speech is being policed when the police should be getting on with policing actual crimes.
Does this lend any gravity to the notion that there's two-tiered justice? The judiciary themselves are part of the problem. They're more likely to be of a liberal, woke mindset. They're more likely to be authoritarian.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, it's quite clear evidence, I think, even in Lucy Connolly's sentencing remarks, the judge basically gave her a lecture on diversity and inclusion, and therefore it wasn't just a legal assessment of her views, it was a political assessment of her views by the judge, which is, of course, something that judges shouldn't be doing. But the great thing about jury trials is that it does avoid two-tier justice. Both Ricky Jones and Jamie Michael were acquitted by a jury. Ricky Jones was the Labour councillor who made the slitting throat sign at a protest on film saying, "Get every one of them." He was acquitted by a jury. Jamie Michael, he was also acquitted by a jury when he made a video saying that people should come to meetings to discuss mass immigration. I mean, you can have your different opinions about which one was worse there, but clearly jury trials are the best way to avoid two-tier justice so that we don't have the same judges who, whether you believe it or not, may not be able to get rid of their own political prejudices. And jury trials allow a random group of people from all walks of life to fairly assess someone.
Nigel Nelson, let's bring you in at this point. You've had your say before about jury trials. You think they're there a good thing on the whole.
Yep.
And this notion now coming out about free speech, it sends further alarm bells ringing that David Lammy is guilty of having his head in the sand.
Well, I think that what David Lammy is doing is trying desperately to cut the court backlog, because you've got people waiting an unconscionable time now to get justice in the first place.
If that means banging up more people for tweets, how's that solved?
I understand the point of that. I also take Connie's point. I think that one thing about juries, free speech is one example where a jury is the right way forward. Another example would be where a judge is purely looking at the law, and a jury might decide, in very rare cases, that the law is unreasonable and the punishment is too much, in which case they can also acquit. So losing that right would be quite serious. However, we have got to do something about the backlog. I think that moving towards 5 years for jury trial is far too much. I was uncomfortable when Sir Brian Leveson came up and said there would be only jury trials for sentences over 3 years. But we're going to have to get a balance here somewhere. So it may well be the idea that magistrates looking at cases which carry a 2-year penalty rather than the current 1-year penalty might cut down on the number of people waiting.
Connie, there's been such a backlash to this notion, not just in Britain, but all around the planet, literally all around the planet. Do you think that the Labour government might be forced to do a U-turn, or are they going to stand by their guns?
Well, if they're not forced to do a U-turn with the already existing backlash, then the Free Speech Union are going to do their best. We're going to do our best to campaign against this, because, like I said, it's one of the biggest assault on our liberties for 800 years. We've spread our common law across the world, and common law countries have jury trials. It's seen as one of the most, the biggest cornerstones of democracy and justice. And so it will be, if this goes ahead, another stark example of how this government simply not only doesn't trust people to tweet. Obviously, remember after the Southport riots, we saw that from the government saying, think before you post. They now don't trust the people to try their peers. And so it's a stark reminder of the contempt, ultimately, that this government has for the British people.
Now, Connie, the judiciary really don't like it. The commentariat don't like it when we start to question the political mindset, the motivations of the judicial class, of the legal class. But is it fair to say, we know with university lecturers, don't get any Conservatives. I wonder how many of the judiciary vote reform, or think it's a good idea, for example, to control our borders, or think it's a good idea to be rightly annoyed about asylum seekers in hotels. Is that the point? Part of the problem here is the judiciary itself has a very narrow political mindset.
Yes, and obviously that is an understandable perception. You're right about university lecturers. Very few of them are anything but left-leaning. But when it comes to jury trials, we have to understand that because it is a mixture of people, that when we have judges in cases, they're hearing the same arguments from people when it comes to free speech, or so-called speech offences. They may get fed up of hearing, oh, this is the same excuse, I've heard this one before and it didn't wash last time. And they may not be able to get that clouded vision out of their mind when they're trying someone new. And so when it comes to making sure that people still have the right to be tried by a jury, that is so important, so that we don't have this perception of two-tiered justice, which we are already seeing. We need to make sure that we protect this right.
Nigel, that's the final word to you. Free speech seems to be under peril in Britain, and it's now a global talking point. Is this part of the problem? Getting rid of juries will be the straw that broke the camel's back. Britain's finished.
I think that the whole point about juries is that for most people it feels fairer. The idea that you're being judged by your peers, you prefer that to a judge. I don't think, by the way, when you're talking about the political views of judges, I think that they leave those things at the court door and do their job.
Not in Lucy Connolly's case.
But the problem is they're judging it purely on the law, whereas a jury will be looking at things in the round, and that's
but there's 12 of them, so that will balance out. Versus
it should
12
balance
to 1
out
in terms of leanings. I mean, I think that the writing seems to show 12's better than 1 for the defendant.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably right. I mean, occasionally you'll find somebody will dominate a jury and in fact those 12 will become a herd and go along with it. So it doesn't always work, but it's the best system we've found so far.
OK, we've got to leave it there. Connie Shaw, Free Speech Union, always superb. Thanks for joining us. And Nigel Nelson, of course, always an absolute pleasure. Now, coming up in just a moment's time is the Home Office spreading disinformation about deportations. We'll be crunching the numbers as the government claims 50,000 illegal migrants have been removed since they took office. Is that fact or is that fiction? That's next.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
And welcome back to Farage with me, your host tonight, Martin Daubney. Now, the Home Office has landed itself in yet another row as it finds itself accused this time of disinformation over the numbers of deportations under Labour that's implemented since taking office. On X, formerly, of course, Twitter, the Home Office account boldly declared almost 50,000 illegal migrants removed or deported since July 2024. But here's the truth. GB News revealed last week that just 4.5%, a tiny percentile of small boat migrants removed under Labour, and indeed there have been just 11,447 deportations since July last year. So what's fact, what's fiction, and what's spin? I'm joined now by the Research Director for the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Rob, always an absolute pleasure. So almost 50,000 illegals have been removed since July 2024. Fact or fiction?
It's a downright lie, unfortunately. This is something that we're seeing a lot from the Home Office. Now, this 50,000 figure sounds amazing. It sounds like they've really grabbed the metal and are prepared to actually do everything to secure Britain's borders. But of that 50,000 figure, actually, only about 12,000 were enforced returns, which is the broad category under which deportations and removals are classified. A huge majority of those that have left the country have done so oftentimes without the Home Office even being aware, and they've only worked out retrospectively, or they've been paid to leave the country. And I think it's incredibly concerning that we have actually a Labour government that has presided over a fall in the removals of small boat migrants. It's actually decreased 8% in the last year, but yet they are trying to tell the British public that they mean business and that they are clamping down on this issue in a way that the Conservatives didn't. Now, of course, the Conservatives were an absolute disaster when it comes to removing individuals, but the Labour Party aren't doing much better. They are actually at the moment just grabbing the low-hanging fruit. So about 2/3 of those that were deported or removed since Labour have taken office were from European countries. They're not going after the big numbers here. They're not going after Pakistan, Eritrea, Afghanistan, those that we know make up Iran, those that we know make up a large percentage of the small boats migrants. Are taking the very easy route here and using that to actually conceal from the British public the truth, the fact that we have an increase in illegal migrants in hotels, the fact that we have seen a decrease in the deportation of illegal migrants. And I think, unfortunately, we're all talking about Rachel Reeves at the moment, but the Home Office are getting caught in quite a trend when it comes to lying to the British public as well.
And of course, who can forget the corker from the Home Office the day after Shabana Mahmood addressed the Commons, where she said, the Home Office said, only British families will get benefits. She didn't say that at any point during the speech.
No, and she's subsequently come out as well and insisted that those 1.3 million foreign nationals already in receipt of universal credit will continue to be able to do so. Those millions of migrants that have the right to claim benefits, should they so choose, are going to continue to have that right as well. We're seeing so much spin, and I think last week and the announcements actually the week before that we saw from the Home Office have been really diabolical, just in terms of the top lines that they're putting out being incredibly hardline, trying to give the impression of a government that means business. But when you actually scratch beneath the surface, you realise a lot of these measures either won't be implemented or have so many loopholes and so much small print that the chances of them ever being implemented at all are really remote. For instance, this idea that illegal migrants will have to wait 20 years to obtain settlement. Well, there are so many off-ramps from that settlement route for illegal migrants if they go into work or study, that the idea that someone's going to have to wait 20 years is for the birds. And actually, why should they even be able to be on a route to settlement in the first place if they come into the country illegally? So it's all smoke and mirrors at the moment from the new Home Secretary.
OK, thank you very much, Rob Bates, the Centre for Migration Control. Always an absolute pleasure to have your company. Thank you very much. Nigel Nelson, let's get a take from you. Here's the point. You can cook the numbers all you like, but the public just aren't swallowing it anymore.
Well, I'm a bit confused about the numbers that Rob has come up with. I mean, he's talking about 11,400 deportations. I'm presuming he's talking about illegal migrants crossing the Channel. If that's the case, we're talking about around about 25% who have been removed.
No, the figures show that of 190,500 small boat migrants who've arrived since 2018, just over 6,000 have been removed. When you cut it down to the actual those who came here illegally, and that's how you get to 3.5% since 2018.
2018 is not something you can blame the Labour government for, is it? On the basis that
no, you can't say that. So the Labour government achieved a heady total of 4.5%.
But I know we're arguing over figures, but the figure he was quoting was from July last year to July this year. So then you're talking around, if that's what we're talking about, around 25%. What the Home Office is dealing with.
4.5%.
Well, not
4.5% of small boat migrants removed in the Labour Party. Fact.
Well, where does the 11,000 come from that the Centre for Migration Control is talking about?
I'm talking about the figures released by the Home Office last week. The facts are the facts. 4.5% of small boat migrants removed in the Labour Party, just 2,800 versus a huge amount more in.
Right, but when we're talking about the 50,000 that you're complaining about, we're talking there about the return of foreign criminals, we're talking about visa overstayers, we're talking about illegal workers, as well as any migrants who come across the Channel that we can get out. So, and as Rob was talking about different ways of getting rid of them, some of them have been paid, of course they have. You pay them to go home. It's a lot cheaper for the British taxpayer to pay them to go.
Hardcore criminals are being paid. Hadesh Kabatu, you know, a child sex offender getting bung £500 to clear off.
If that's going to save the British taxpayer an awful lot more money, which is what it did, then that is the best way of actually getting rid of someone. Of course, it sticks in the craw. No one wants to pay a foreign criminal to go home. But if that is,
Shabana Mahmood does.
But she doesn't. That she recognises the practicalities of it, that it is cheaper to pay somebody to go home than to keep them here and let them fight different appeals along the way.
You have to admit there's been a risible, pathetic number of deportation of actual illegals, the people the public care most about, under both the Conservatives and the Labour Party. It sunk the Tories. It will sink the Labour Party.
Well, I mean, it depends where we get to. I mean, we are stuck with small boat crossings. There is nowhere. I know what Matt says about this, but there's no way that we can be that small boat crossings are going to stop tomorrow. What will happen is, in the long term, that we can actually reduce them.
OK, there you go. Matt Goodwin, of course, State of the Nation is up next. We're stuck with the small boat migrants. Matt Goodwin.
Well, that's right. I'm stepping in for Jacob Rees-Mogg tonight. We'll be talking about the one-in, one-out deal, and I'll be looking at actually how you can solve this crisis. We'll also be looking at when is Rachel Reeves actually going to do the right thing and resign, which of course she should do. We're going to be looking at whether the Tulip Sadiq case tells us something about the dark heart of the Labour Party and the endless number of cases now involving suspected or alleged corruption and hypocrisy. But lastly, and most interestingly, a former preacher from Britain. Well, he's now running a new ISIS network in Somalia. Spent a long time in this country, by the way, not exactly a success story when it comes to diversity. We're going to be talking to a top counter-terrorism expert about this guy and what is going on right now in Somalia.
And that's the guy with the red beard.
That's Abdul Qadir Mumin, who was in London and Leicester and is now running an ISIS network involving thousands of fighters in Somalia.
Do you think, Matt, we've got 45 seconds to go, and I want to get your take on this small boats crisis. Nigel seems to believe that's just the way it is. We can't get rid of it. I think if we don't get rid of it, we will get rid of the Labour government.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this issue is becoming totemic for the Labour Party. They don't see it. Remember, Martin, immigration is the #1 issue in this country, tied with the economy. And this is spiralling. The numbers are spiralling. 4.5%, as you rightly said. It's also the use of hotels, last week we learned, up 23%. And so people at home are paying 15 billion quid for this fiasco. It's absolutely outrageous.
Astonishing stuff. Matt Goodwin, State of the Nation, is up next. Thank you, Nigel Nelson. Always a pleasure, never a chore. See you Wednesday for 3 hours more of arguing. I'll be back tomorrow, 3 till 6. State of the Nation is up next. Don't go anywhere. First, though, here's your weather forecast. Have a great evening.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Good evening to you. We've had a Met Office amber rain warning in place through the day across parts of South Wales and other rain yellow warnings across parts of Western Britain. It has been a very soggy start to December, but the rain is now starting to ease in the west. These weather fronts are moving through, but still a band of pretty intense rain working from west to east over the next few hours before that finally starts to head out into the North Sea. Further outbreaks of rain to come and go across parts of Scotland, but many areas becoming much drier overnight with some clearer skies. That will allow the temperatures to dip to 5 or 6 degrees in towns and cities, a little lower in the countryside. It does mean a bright start to Tuesday. In fact, overall, a much brighter day tomorrow. Certainly for the Midlands and eastern England, we'll see some sunshine. Maybe a few breaks in the cloud coming through to parts of Scotland. Also, some wet weather across the Northern Isles initially, and showers will come into western Scotland all day. Elsewhere, we'll be looking at showers developing also. A few, maybe for the west of Northern Ireland, certainly around the coasts of Western England and Wales, and along the south coast, there'll be some showers to start off with. And as we go through the day, those showers will tend to creep inland as well. So although not as wet as today in South Wales and southwest England, obviously any rain falling here onto the saturated ground is likely to cause further problems. But the rain, at least a bit more hit and miss in the form of showers, and certainly much in the Midlands, eastern England, good part of eastern Scotland, through the central belt, dry and bright for the most part. A little cooler than today, but we'll have a bit more sunshine and the winds will be lighter as well. Wednesday is also a case of sunshine and showers, and again, most of the showers will be focused in western areas, particularly western Scotland. It's a good chance that eastern England will stay dry and bright. And again, nothing like as heavy the rain across parts of Wales and southwest England as today. Temperatures, again, mostly 7 to 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, about average for this time of year.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax